Christian, the main character, has just left the house of interpreter. That was last week's sermon. By the way, Pilgrim's Progress, just for you coming even one time during these 9 weeks, you can take home a free copy of Pilgrim's Progress, one per family. They're sitting on the back table back there. Feel free to take that and enjoy that as just a gift from our church for being here today. Christian leaves house interpreter. He's heading down a path that has walls on each side of the path. Those walls are called salvation. I believe John Bunyan got that from Isaiah 26 and verse 1. In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. Salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwarks. Christian makes it down the path with the walls of salvation on either side. He comes up to a hill. It's called the Hill of Deliverance. He makes it to the Hill of Deliverance. On this hill there is a cross. At the bottom of the hill there is an open grave. On this Hill of Deliverance, he barely starts walking up the Hill of Deliverance when this burden that's been on his back for months, this burden that's almost got him killed a couple of times. Can't imagine what it would have smelled like. You ever had a sore where it actually started to smell? Like, man, I got to clean this out like once an hour. This burden on his back, the biggest struggle he was facing with, just falls off his back. It just melts. No surgery, no chemotherapy, no 10-week rehab facility, nothing, no medication, no counseling, no nothing. He's just on the Hill of Deliverance. He's just in the presence of the cross. And this burden that's been on his back for all this time grieved him immensely, just falls off his back. And this burden begins to roll down the Hill of Deliverance like a massive snowball. It just rolls down the hill, falls into the open grave, and that burden is never seen again. It's never seen again. It's gone. Romans 6, 5-7 says, For if we have been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also in the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin, for he that is dead is freed from sin. Christian is elated. He's so happy. And he's by himself. Have you ever got really excited by yourself? It actually feels a little funny. Like maybe you're watching a sports game or you're doing something else fun that you like to do, and you just get really excited about it. It went your way. Yes! I hope nobody saw me. Like if you're in a car and there's someone next to you, yes, like that. You're just so happy about it. Christian was just overjoyed. This burden was gone. He's so excited. Then he gets a little confused, like, was that it? Like, how was that so easy? What in the world? This should have been harder than that. Am I seeing things? Am I hallucinating? Am I dreaming? Let me pinch myself real quick. So he's a bit confused. Then he kind of wraps his mind around it a second later and he begins to weep. He's just so tears of joy. Christian experiences all these emotions as he's standing there on the Hill of Deliverance. His burden has finally been lifted. It just fell off his back so easily. About that time, 3 shining ones appear in the story now. 3 shining ones, or angels, appear on the Hill of Deliverance. Each one does something differently. The first one announces, peace be unto you, your sins are forgiven. Peace be unto you, your sins are forgiven. This is a scriptural one-liner. I want to quote Ephesians 1, verse 13. In whom ye also trusted, after that ye heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that ye believed, ye were sealed with that Holy Spirit promise. The first one says, peace be unto you, your sins are forgiven. The second shining one strips Pilgrim of his rags that he'd been wearing this whole journey, and he gets a new outfit. He gets a brand new raiment, brand new attire. And that seems fitting because it's Easter, and sometimes people get new outfits. I've been asked the question a couple times, kind of a cordial, cultural question we get asked, are you ready for Easter? What does that even mean? Like, are you ready for Easter? Someone asked me that, and I said, yes, I am. I've got a new shirt. So my big plans for Easter today, I've got a new shirt. Yes, I'm ready, and I'm excited about Easter. Not that relevant to the story, but anywho, the second shining one strips Christian of his rags, gives him a brand new set of clothes to wear. I want to read Zechariah 3 and verse 4. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment. The third shining one puts a mark or a seal on the forehead of Christian, and then he hands Christian a scroll. A scroll. And the shining one says to Christian, with this scroll, first of all, you get guaranteed access to the celestial city. This is the journey, by the way. Christian, going from the city of destruction to the celestial city. It's been up in the air at times. It's been a back and forth journey with highs and lows, much like our lives, our faith journey, highs and lows. But he's there at the hill of deliverance, right there at the cross. He's handed a scroll that guarantees him access to the celestial city. And also the shining one says, you're going to go through some tough times real soon here. If you get discouraged or if you're just not sure about things, pull out the scroll and read it as an encouragement to you and as a verification that your life is on track, that things are going to work out for good. You are going to make it to the celestial city. He takes the scroll, he thanks them. The three shining ones disappear, and that's it. Christian walks away from the hill of deliverance, and he continues his journey. It's a brief moment in Pilgrim's Progress. And as far as the importance of it, we feel like it should just be this massive chunk of Pilgrim's Progress, the hill of deliverance. This is the most important moment, and it's only covered in like a couple pages. We're going to come back and cover that in a little bit, but he moves on from the hill of deliverance. It sounds a lot like our salvation moment, but I'll get back to that in a bit. Christian continues down the narrow path toward the celestial city. He comes across three new characters in the story: simple, sloth, and presumptuous. Simple, sloth, and presumptuous. They're sitting there on the side of the road. They're actually in chains, just sitting there. Christian felt like that was very dangerous for them to be there. There are some scary creatures, a roaring lion roaming about, seeking who he may devour. Christian tries to help them and say, hey, come on, guys, you guys got to get out of here. Let me help you out of those chains. Let's go. We got to keep moving to the celestial city. Sloth says, I don't see any danger. I think we're fine. After a bit of a dialogue there, Christian moves on, and he's perplexed. Like, I could have helped those guys. Why would they not want my help? They were clearly struggling. And that bothered Christian, but he continued on his journey down the narrow path. A little bit of time passes. All of a sudden, two guys jump over the wall. This wall on both sides of the path. Two guys hop the wall and act like they belong there. Like, ever when you're a teenager, do you ever, or an adult, do you ever sneak into somewhere where you shouldn't be? Like you got through. I was not a model teenager, I'll admit that, and kind of sneak through the back entrance and act like yes, of course I belong here. Of course maybe you've had a wedding crasher career or something. And these two guys hop the wall. They did not go through the straight and narrow gate. They did not go through the wicked gate. They did not pass through the hill of deliverance. They hopped the wall, and they're just acting like, hey, yes, of course, we're fine. Timorous and Mistrust are their names. Timorous and Mistrust. A long dialogue takes place in the book of Pilgrim's Progress between Christian and these two yahoos. Christian tries to explain, just very concerned for them. You guys, you're not following the Lord of the Hill. There were very specific instructions, and it did not include hopping the wall right here. But they wrote them off as, did I get those right names? No, I didn't. Formality and hypocrite. Those are the names. So thank you. Thank you guys for doing what I say. Even if I lead you astray, you're just going to follow me. I appreciate that. Follow me, everyone. Formality and hypocrite are the two characters' names that jumped the wall. And they say, no, we're fine. Don't worry about it, Christian. We'll be just fine. John chapter 10 and verse 1 says, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. So this, what we just talked about here, is an excellent evaluation of what Pilgrim's Progress is. It's taking this verse and then literally applying it into the story of Pilgrim's Progress. Whereas for us, we just translate into how it applies to our faith journey as far as salvation. Christian, formality, and hypocrite approach the hill of difficulty. The hill of difficulty, I'm just going to quickly run through this. It's an interesting part of the story. It's a steep hill. The narrow path clearly goes up the hill of difficulty. It does look challenging. Formality, And hypocrites say, look, there's a much easier way to go around the hill of difficulty. We don't need to waste our energy on this. Christian says, I'm not sure that's a good idea, guys. But they don't listen to him. Formality goes one way. Hypocrite goes the other way. And those two guys are not seen again in the story. One was a forest called Danger, and the other one, I'm not remembering at this time. They are not seen again in the story. Christian heads up the hill of difficulty. It is a difficult climb. He makes it to an arbor, a little shelter that was built by the Lord of the hill to give pilgrims a breather on that journey of the hill of difficulty. It's very luxurious and relaxing. He ends up falling asleep. He didn't mean to, but he fell asleep right in the middle of the day. Much like a couple of you right now in this church service. He didn't mean to, but he fell asleep. He wakes up hours later, and everyone's out of church, and he's just sitting there by himself like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And he just bolts. He's like, oh my, what am I doing? I got to keep journeying. So he wakes up, and oh my goodness, I fell asleep. How could I do this? He just takes off running, and he's heading toward Palace Beautiful. As he's making his way there, two characters pass his way, Timorous and Mistrust, and they're actually running the opposite way. So he's walking along however he walked. He's walking along, and here comes Timorous and Trust running this way towards him. And Christian's like, what is happening? So they're just running as fast as they could, and they stop and talk to Christian just for a second, and they say there are two huge lions up ahead, and they look hungry, they look very upset, and we don't want to die. Since we're not planning on getting eaten by lions today, we're out of here. And they're just running, heading back to the city of destruction. So Christian's standing there and just feeling a little bit perplexed. Well, I don't want to die today. Those two lions are ahead. The narrow path clearly has me going that way. He's just kind of standing there just trying to recalibrate and figure out what he's going to do. And he remembers what the Shining One said. If you're feeling down, if you're not sure what to do, just pull out that scroll and read it, and it'll be an encouragement to you. And he was very serious about that scroll. He's very proud of it. He goes to reach in his pocket, and it's not there. So he checks his other pocket. I have like 8 pockets. I don't know if Christian had 8 pockets, but he checks his suit coat pockets, shirt pocket, back pockets. Did he put it in his shoe? He has lost the scroll. He can't believe it. He had one job. That's it. Hold the scroll. And he lost it. He lost the scroll, and now he's really upset. And he realizes he's pretty sure he left it at that arbor where he fell asleep. Remember, he just got up and just bolted on with the journey? He thinks it fell out of his pocket at the arbor. So he backtracks. He wastes all this time signifying the children of Israel in the promised land. He backtracks to the arbor. He finds the scroll. He's happy about it, but he's still upset at himself that he misplaced something so important. Makes his way towards Palace Beautiful, which is the second important part of our sermon today. Palace Beautiful, he's approaching it finally. It's nighttime now. He lost a lot of time with the nap and with the wasted journey because he lost the scroll. He sees the 2 lions. There they are. Massive, strong lions. Do you ever see an animal and the animal looks so ripped, you're like, man, that animal must work out. Whereas they're just like solid muscle with 4 legs. There they are, these 2 lions, and he's just frozen. Like a deer staring into headlights. He doesn't run, and he doesn't advance. He just, is this it? You ever had that thought to yourself in your head? Is this the end? Like maybe you're in a slight danger, like almost a car accident. Wow, my life may end today. So he's just standing there. And he hears a man named Watchful. A man named Watchful shouts from a balcony of Palace Beautiful and says, "Fear not, traveler. Those lions are chained. You can't see it, but they're on a leash. They are put there as a test of faith. And if you stay on the narrow path, the lions will not harm you, I promise." Christian slowly walks the path, makes it the lions. Then he sees, oh wow, they had chains on. You couldn't really see it. He makes it into Palace Beautiful. As far as those 2 lions, I want to read for you at this time. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. "Wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth." I love to say, Faith is the currency of heaven. Faith is the currency of heaven. Money is meaningless when it comes to the kingdom of heaven. Faith is what is extremely valuable. I love to say that, so it comes up here again in this verse. The trial of your faith being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. Christian makes it into Palace Beautiful. Watchful says to Christian, Palace Beautiful was built by the Lord of the Hill, Jesus, and it is for the relief and security of pilgrims. It is for the relief and security of pilgrims. Yes, you can stay the night here. Yes, you can gather your strength. Yes, you can be encouraged here at Palace Beautiful. I want to quickly run through the different conversations. Christian gets a lot of fellowship time in here at Palace Beautiful. I'm just going to highlight what happens here in the story. First of all, he has a conversation with someone by the name of Piety about his journey. And this is a cool conversation where you kind of backtrack through the different portions of the journey that we've already covered. You hear Christian kind of talking about it. In some of those moments, Christian doesn't really say much. So it's a neat opportunity for Christian to be able to explain, this is what I saw, this is what I got out of it. And so it's a pretty cool journey about what's happened so far. Then he has a conversation with someone named Prudence about not looking back. Prudence asked him a very sincere question. How are you doing? You walked away from the city of destruction. That's your home and your culture, your relationships, everything you know. How are you doing with that? And it's a fascinating conversation between Christian and Prudence. They have a great talk about not looking back, about yes, of course it's hard, but moving forward. Christian says, there's nothing back there for me. I know that. Yes, of course I miss them, but I've got to move forward. That's that conversation. The third one is a conversation with Charity about his family. A woman named Charity asks Christian about his family. Where are your wife and children? Christian says, I invited them. I really wanted them to come. I exhorted them with all my heart, with all sincerity. They didn't take me seriously. And actually, they mocked me. Charity and Christian have an intimate conversation about the pain and struggle it is to be on that journey to the celestial city, ultimately by yourself. If you're not familiar with Pilgrim's Progress, I'll just give you a sneak peek here. The second half of Pilgrim's Progress is Pilgrim's wife, Christiana, and their kids. They do take the journey to the celestial city from the city of destruction. That's the whole second half of the book. But Christian does not know this at this time. As far as he's concerned at this time, they appear to be lost and will never trust in the Lord of the Hill. Dinner time at Palace Beautiful. There's a conversation at dinner, and that conversation is all about the Lord of the Hill. They talk about him. They brag on him. They talk about how he built this place, Palace Beautiful. They talk about his deeds that he's done, the great things he's done. They talk about the things he's going to do. They talk about how the Lord of the Hill loves pilgrims so much, nobody loves pilgrims more than the Lord of the Hill. They have a great time over dinner talking about him and all that he's done. That night, Christian heads to an upper room called Peace, and he gets a good, well-deserved night's sleep. He's there for a couple days at Palace Beautiful. The next day, they take him into the study. There's a study at Palace Beautiful. They first show him the genealogies of the Lord of the Hill that goes all the way back to the first man, Adam. The life of the Lord of the Hill is documented. His deeds, what he said, it's documented there in that study at Palace Beautiful. And also the deeds of many of the Lord of the Hill's followers. He spends a whole day in the study of Palace Beautiful. Day 3, and the final day at Palace Beautiful, they take Christian into the armory. They say, you're going to need some weapons. Wait, what? Why am I going to need weapons? I said that last week. Can you go to the store for me? Here, take this rocket launcher. What do I need a rocket launcher for? What is out there that I need a rocket launcher? They take him in the armory. Say, there are some difficult things out there, some straight up monsters that you're going to have to face. You're going to need these weapons. First, they show him some pretty incredible relics. They show him Moses' actual rod. They show him a pitcher and a lamp. from Gideon's battle. They have an ox goad from Shamgar. I think I got that mixed up. They have an ox goad from Samson, and no, I was right. And a jawbone used by Samson, and they have the actual sling and stone used by David to kill Goliath in this armory. They pass through the museum portion of it, and they head into the actual armory. Christian gets armored up with the helmet of salvation, but just an actual helmet instead of just a metaphor, the armor of God. He actually puts on the breastplate of righteousness. He gets equipped with the sword of the Spirit. His feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, which Pilgrim's Progress defines that as shoes that don't wear out. That was kind of interesting. Shoes that don't wear out. He gets armored up. He's about ready to go. He's going to take on Apollyon. The showdown between Christian and Apollyon will be next week's sermon. He's also, from there, he's going to head into the valley of the shadow of death. So it's not going to be pretty as far as the next leg of Christian's journey. The folks at Palace Beautiful are very aware of that. They want to encourage him. So the last thing they do is they take him to the very top of Palace Beautiful, and they show him way over beyond the next mountain. They say, Christian, do you see those mountains? Christian says, yes. Christian, those are the Delectable Mountains. Those are the Delectable Mountains. They're beautiful, gorgeous greenery, vegetation. You're going to get there, okay? So the next leg of the journey is going to be difficult, but just know, just keep going, keep moving. You're going to make it to the Delectable Mountains. Those mountains are located in Emmanuel's land, and when you're on the Delectable Mountains, you'll be able to see from there the celestial city, okay? So from here at Palace Beautiful, you can see Delectable Mountains, and from there you'll be able to see the celestial city. Christian appreciates it. He gathers it all in, everything he's experienced at Palace Beautiful, and he heads out on his journey. Very soon he will take on Apollyon. I want to give you 3 thoughts on Easter here today, just something you think about as we've just talked about this portion of the story with Christian, the Hill of Deliverance, and Palace Beautiful. Number 1, salvation happens in a moment. Salvation happens in a moment. Reminds me of a popular, somewhat fast food restaurant here in our area, in our country, Jimmy John's. Freaky fast. Freaky fast. I think you guys are all familiar with this. By the time you get done ordering your sandwich, they're basically already done with the order. Like it's right there, ready to go. It's the most amazing thing. If you're in a neighborhood where you can have Jimmy John's delivered, it gets there very fast, way faster than ordering pizza or Chinese or anything of that nature. Freaky fast. It's one of their things. And it reminds me of salvation. Lord willing, when you trusted Christ, it was pretty fast, wasn't it? It didn't take long. I think many of us, there's at least a portion in our life where it even maybe confused us. Like, man, it seems like that should have been a bigger deal. Seems like that should have taken a little longer. Freaky fast as far as salvation. It reminds me, today's Easter, it reminds me of the thief on the cross. Luke 23, verses 42 and 43. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. That's about all the thief says. And here comes Jesus in verse 43, one of his last words. And Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Really? That's it? Is it really that quick? This eternal moment, this burden is released. We rejoice. And then the journey continues, just like in Pilgrim's Progress. The actual Hill of Deliverance, it really didn't take that long. And that's us in our lives. Wow, we got saved. Wow, we know for sure we're going to heaven. We have Jesus in our hearts. Woo! All right. Wow. What's for lunch? You know, what else? You just go on. Go on with your journey. There's still going to be some really hard things we're going to face in our lives. Salvation happens in a moment. It's an incredibly important moment, probably the greatest moment, even though it is brief. It is brief and it's fast. Secondly, Jesus dealt with our sin. Jesus dealt with their sins. Number one, salvation happens in a moment. It's quick. It's quick. Now, if you've struggled with salvation, maybe you still haven't trusted Jesus yet, and maybe that takes a while. But as far as when your heart is ready and you are fully committed, okay, I'm ready. Wham! Happens fast. Salvation happens in a moment. Number two, Jesus dealt with our sin. Well, this doesn't appear to be that great of a one-liner, especially if you've been in church your whole life. But I want to unpack this thought here. Jesus dealt with our sin. And it's going to start with a picture of a hazmat suit, okay? All right, have you guys seen a hazmat suit before? I'm sure you have. This was just a nasty, contaminated area where you got to put on a hazmat suit. I want you to think about this as we look at a verse here. Isaiah 64 and verse 6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. All right, so we're talking about, we're on the hill, but we're back on the hill of deliverance, where this burden, I want us to break down this burden here that just falls off his back, that rolls down the hill there and into the grave. The Bible says, and I have a question for you. If the Bible says that our righteousness are as filthy rags, what does our sin look like? If our good works in the sight of a holy and just God look like filthy rags, what does your actual sin look like? How nasty is that? How disgusting and revolting is your sin and the deeds that you have done and that I have done? What does that look like? I think about the BP oil spill. What a mess that was in the Gulf of Mexico. Somebody had to deal with that. And it was fitting that BP looked into fixing it because ultimately they were the ones that caused it. It took them a long time. Caused a lot of damage. I think the Gulf still struggles because of that BP spill. Just a nasty spill. Smelled. It was terrible. Jesus dealt with your sin. When I'm trying to imagine, I'm trying to help us imagine the nastiness, the nasty mess that was our sin that Jesus dealt with. I think about how I don't do well with boogers, okay? I don't do well with boogers, right? I'm okay with blood. It's fine. I'm okay with poop, and I'm okay with urine, okay? Truth bomb, I was a bedwetter growing up, okay? So I'm very comfortable with urine, all right? We got to know each other very well, and I'm fine with it. But boogers, no, I can't. It's a big struggle for me. About 6 months ago, a precious, cute little girl of our church came up to hug me after a service, and she had the biggest booger ever, right there on her top lip, and she's coming for a hug, and I was like, oh my goodness. This hill of difficulty is so steep here for me here today. Oh man, it was tough. It was tough. I gave her a hug, but it wasn't pretty. I can't do boogers. Somebody had to deal with your sin. Somebody had to take responsibility for it. I want to show a video here, a 2-minute video. In my opinion, this is the absolute best 2-minute video laying out what happened on Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection day that I've ever seen. It's just 2 minutes. They're going to cue it up, get ready to crank it for us. And when you're watching what Jesus went through, I want you to translate that as this is how Jesus dealt with my sin, how he handled it and processed it. I want you to think about the hill of deliverance and how that burden fell off Christians' back. We're freed. And that burden rolls down the hill, gets swallowed up in the open grave. It appears easy and quick to us. I want you to think about what Jesus did at Calvary for you. This is the process of Jesus handling what he had to go through for you. There's no other reason why he did it. It was the process take care of your sin. Let's watch this video right now. Jesus dealt with our sin as only he could. As only he could. So number one, salvation happens in a moment. Number two, Jesus dealt with our sin. Number three, thing I want you to take home with you today, welcome to Palace Beautiful. Welcome to Palace Beautiful. In the story of Pilgrim's Progress, Palace Beautiful signifies the church. The church, a place created and established by the Lord of the Hill for the rest and security of pilgrims. It's what we're here for. And what an incredible moment it is to be here today in Palace Beautiful. It's why we're here. We are here to encourage and exhort all travelers, pilgrims, heading for the celestial city. This is the waypoint that's been established by Jesus to help you. This Palace Beautiful, aka South Point Community Church, has been fully funded by fellow pilgrims heading towards the celestial city. Funded, staffed, and resourced by fellow pilgrims. We're here for each other. We're here for each other here at Palace Beautiful. You know, I think about the hundreds, thousands, even millions of pilgrims on this earth who desired a better country, as the book of Hebrews talks about. And all the different Palace Beautifuls that have been established for the last 2,000 years. Such an amazing process as every pastor passes off the scene. No matter how awesome they are or how much of a scumbag they are, and they probably shouldn't be pastoring. Either way, God removes them, and they pass off the scene. Ushers, deacons, greeters, singers, everyone, cleaners, their time comes and goes, and they move on to the celestial city. And the gospel lives on. Miraculously, the gospel lives on, and we're here today. You are part of that process. That is just so neat. You are part of this process of the gospel still flourishing here today. There essentially is no other organization that takes care of the documents, the stories, the message of the gospel. That is what Palace Beautiful is here for. And you made it. Well done. Welcome to Palace Beautiful. Hebrews 10, verses 24 and 25. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. That's why we're here. We're really not here for any other reason. That's why we're here. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye see the day approaching. So I thought I was so much looking forward to today's sermon, talking about the Hill of Deliverance, and then Palace Beautiful, the caretakers of projecting the message of the gospel. So we get the gospel today in Pilgrim's Progress, and then we get to be a part of the sacred, chosen pilgrims, followers of Jesus, who keep it going. We're here today talking about what Jesus did on that hill. The dinner conversation at Palace Beautiful. That's all we do here is brag on Jesus, talk about what he's done, talk about how much he loves you and believes in you. Talk about the things Jesus is going to do for us that we haven't seen yet, witnessed yet with our eyes. Salvation happens in a moment. Jesus dealt with our sin. Welcome to Palace Beautiful. Lastly, I just want to ask a question. Have you ever trusted Jesus Christ as your Savior? Have you ever had your moment, so to speak, at the Hill of Deliverance? Have you released your burden, your sin burden? That is a heavy burden that no one can carry. No one. And we've tried, many of us try with all our hearts to deal with our sin issue ourselves. There's a lot of good tools out there, but ultimately, only God can release us from our sin. If you've never trusted Jesus Christ, it's quick. It's quick. It starts with understanding that God created everything, and he is in charge of everything. Secondly, we sinned. We messed up. We all know this. Thirdly, Jesus saves. He died on the cross, resurrected 3 days later. And fourthly, now that all the hard work is done, that process, there's nothing easy about the gospel. There's nothing simple about the gospel. What Jesus went through to handle your sin. All that's left is we respond with all sincerity and belief and faith and hope. We ask Jesus Christ to come into our heart and declare him as the Son of God.